Welcome back to part 2 of this demonstration. As we continue within this part, we will be taking a look at the Scriptcase platform, what the various tools are, how we can use some of them, and we will also begin to create our very first project. Okay, so we have now switched to an online version. You may notice first of all the URL is different from what we had previously. We also have a different username and a password indicated. Our login details are no longer displayed here, as well as the trial period is no longer valid as we have a licensed version. Okay, so we will be using this version as we will during the demonstration also be deploying our project to an online host. Okay, so now that we are logging into Scriptcase, let's check out our dashboard, and what we're going to do is check out all of the options that we have available here. So first of all, let's start at the top right hand corner. This little button here in the top right enables or allows us to remove or adjust the top menu. With this, we can expand our workspace, which is quite convenient. Next to that, we have a notification window or option. Here we are informed of updates to Scriptcase, new releases, videos, so on, as well as group messages for group interaction during development. Next to this, we have our user account details. Here we have first of all our username at the top, then we have who the account is licensed to, the version number of our Scriptcase installation, the license type, how many concurrent connections we are allowed to have within Scriptcase, meaning how many developers can concurrently work on individual or single projects, how many applications we are allowed to create, which is by default unlimited, and also the upgrade expires at X date. We are then also informed that our license is active or inactive, and then we also have our serial number and the option to access directly our Scriptcase account. We can then also log out. So continuing on the same menu, we then have our help options. If we then go to help and then web help, this is then forced in page. We then receive the Scriptcase documentation. Okay, so continuing on with the help menu, we also have the technical support, so I'll open that as well. And within the technical support, we can see our account details, and from here we are able to open tickets. We have a complete ticket system where our support agents are able to help you with your problems and any installation issues you may have, as well as some questions regarding the development process. For tickets and support access, you do require a specific account. Do check out the pricing on our website for the access to that. The online chat is then also available, and you will receive a much fluid and better support than I receive right now. Okay, so next up, continuing with help, we then also have the option diagnosis. Selecting diagnosis will open the diagnosis page, of course, and from here we will then be able to receive or view the PHP indications and Apache environment variables for Scriptcase. Okay, so continuing on, within next, we also have the option to check our version, and then Scriptcase will ensure that it is the latest version. So this is one of the reasons why we need these pop-up windows enabled, so that we can actually receive these and receive and view this information. So here it tells us that Scriptcase has been updated. It is fine. Next up, we have the option to update our version. Now, generally, when there are updates, you will receive an indicator on your front page when you log in that there is a new update, and you will be requested to access your options and then also your settings. Now, you may remember this from earlier. We did come here and view the online registration. Now, the Scriptcase update is also here, so we can from here update our Scriptcase development environment. It will then connect to Scriptcase and see if there are any new files. I won't go ahead with it now, as it can take a little moment to process. So while we're here, we will continue. We will then also have the system settings. Within the system settings, we can define our language. So I will go ahead and do that. We can indicate whether administrators or all users receive alerts regarding backups. We can check when updates are applied or when they are checked, if they are daily or weekly and so forth. We can also change various other settings regarding the session timeout. We can provide a dedicated SMTP server for the Scriptcase mails and so forth. Now, one of the options I would definitely indicate here is our time zone. So let me go ahead and select this. And then we have this set for where we are. And then within our project, we also have less time zone issues when we run time variables and calculations and so forth. So the next option here is the default values. Within the default values is also a very good indicator or starting point. So when you first create your project, you can actually already customize various elements of the applications. So for instance, here we can already define a logo. Adding this logo, all projects created by default will automatically have this logo. Of course, we are able to change this, but this is just a default variable which we can define previously. So if there is a specific logo we will use for all of our projects or many of our projects, we can define it here. We can also define row limits, we can change the theme, the summary, and various other settings. Now we will be viewing a lot of these options as we continue on within this demonstration. But coming back here later on would definitely be a good pointer. When you first create your project, defining these various elements will help you a great deal and help you speed up your development process. Continuing on, then we also have the system folders. This is the default path for all system folders for the Scriptcase development environment, as well as the projects which we then create. Continuing on, we have then also the project management. So this is specifically for the projects which we have created. We can see the project name, the details regarding the project, when it was created, and how many applications. We can also view various actions. So let me view one here, which has many. And then we can have these informations again, what the connection is for that project, and who the user and administrator is of that specific project. So this is ideal for the group management. Continuing on, we have then security. We have then the security type, which we can set to either Scriptcase, users, groups, or group users. We also have the option to use LDAP authentication with Windows servers, which is very nice. Next, we have then users for the group access. We can enable access user details concerning group developers, which are also using the Scriptcase development platform. Again, this is for the group access. So next we have services online. Here we can view the current users which are using the platform, again for the group access. We also have the option to back up our Scriptcase environment. This will back up all projects. We will then have a zip file which we can download, and we can then later import this into a new installation or to recover and so forth. Within the restore is exactly where we would do this. We would select the zip file, which we either have backed up already, or we would be able to upload one and then restore our development environment. This restoration does also include all libraries, scripts, images, and so forth, which you have within your project. Everything is backed up. Within the configure log, we can also change how the Scriptcase logs the information regarding the applications and so on. We then also have the option to view the log. Here again, for group access as well as the configure log, allows us to view information regarding specific users which have been using the Scriptcase development environment. Okay, so let's continue on with the top menu and close this one. We then have within help with the license registration, which we have already seen. So completing this, in options, we have just reviewed the settings. We then also have my Scriptcase. Within my Scriptcase, we can again set our language for my language. This is me as a user, not as the environment itself. I can also specify whether I want to use security or passwords for our projects or for my projects during the usage. So for instance, when I create a project, I can run the application. If security is applied, I may be requested a username password. Now, this is how it should function when it is live online. And locally, in many cases, we will not want to use security. So I will disable this for the time being. And then we will be able to view those pages immediately without having to enable this. Each application does also have this option where we can enable and disable this during the development as well as for the live process. This is a very important factor to highlight, as there are other features for this, which of course we can use to make sure our project is fully secure, and that all our applications which we want to have security applied to have it applied. So enabling or disabling this will not affect your overall project if you manage it correctly, of course. So next up we have the password. Of course, within our applications we are able to specify an individual password for that application. This is again also where we can enable or disable this option during the development. So we are able to run the application, see it without having to add the username and password, or without having to run the login page of our project. Below this we have other information which we can change, as well as interface options, autosave. I will enable this for now. I have left the use security checked for the time being. Generally I tend to leave this unchecked, but for this demonstration I will leave it checked so we can actually see this and see where else we can disable this within the application as we progress during this demonstration. Okay, so there are various other options here. Enable hotkeys, which is one of the new features. We can add hotkeys to our projects and applications as well, which is a nice feature. And we'll have hotkeys within our applications and menus here. So let's go ahead and save that. And okay, I will do that later. I do not want to reload right now. And we will continue with the options. We have here then also the option to change our password, and also the option to view my toolbar, which allows us to modify how these icons and or application quick buttons are available for us. Next to that, we then also have my hotkeys. So as mentioned, we have hotkeys where you can press a function key, for instance, or a Control+S and so forth, and it will provide you a specific action. Once you have custom hotkeys configured, you will be able to rapidly deploy and use your applications much better and much more efficiently. Okay, so let's carry on with our remaining options here within the menu. We have modules. As you see, these are grayed out. Most of these options will be available as we progress within this training. Essentially, once we have created our project and our first application. Now, we will cover these as we progress within this training, so don't worry there. Let's continue on here to the tools, and here we have then the to-do list. The to-do list allows us to configure or add our own tasks. We can view tasks for all of the group, a public list, my personal list, and so on. We can then create tasks and specify deadlines, who is responsible, and who can change what, and so forth. So this is again a great feature for group development. So let's continue on. We then have the next tool, which is messages, which allows us or enables us to send messages back and forth or to and forth to other group developers. Again, this is ideal for the concurrent connections, which we are enabled within the Enterprise Edition. Next up on tools, we have converters. Here we can convert old versions of Scriptcase from version 6, 7, 8 to the current version 9. This allows us to update our projects continuously. Next we have application, which is also all grayed out, database also, and then we have project. From within project, we can create a new project, which we will be doing next, and we can open a project once we have a project created. We can then also, from here, export and import projects, meaning before we have actually logged into a project, we obviously have one created, we are also able to export specific or many of our projects and download them individually. We can then also later import them into another Scriptcase environment or for a new installation and so forth. Below the main menu, we have our ribbon bar. Here we have various icons available. Again, most of these are grayed out as we are not within a project yet. Okay, so we're still stuck here in the hotkeys. So let me come here and click save and return back to our dash. I will also reload now. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is creating a new project. And from here, we can see that we have various templates available initially. We have, first of all, a blank project. This is what we will be creating shortly and starting with. So I will not explain this right now. We have next to this also various templates available from Scriptcase. We have developed these for you to use and of course use within your own projects and development plans. Now, you see here, for instance, we have various templates that you can generate. So we could select one of these, generate the entire project. We can learn from that project, or of course, we can use the various applications or individual applications within our own project by importing them. This is a great feature and also allows us to learn a great deal. Now, I will highlight in that case the samples. This is for me a very important one, as from this you will learn possibly much more than you will from the templates. But I will indicate that the templates have unique features and abilities in some areas, so they are also definitely a good idea to look at. So we should have seen those in the previous video. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create a blank project. With our project details, we can first of all add an icon for our project, so we can add a custom logo. Within the Scriptcase image management interface, we can navigate images which are organized within folders for Scriptcase, which are available automatically on installation for all users and can be used within your own projects. We also have a public folder, a project folder, and a user folder where we can organize our images per project, user, or for all projects. We also have the option to upload new files, copy files, remove and rename files when accessing our individual folders. So within public, for instance, we can come here, access, and upload a file that we want to use within our own project. Within the Scriptcase general images, we will be selecting here our image, and to the right we will use the navigation buttons which are available to select a logo to be placed within our project. To the top here we can also change the resolution and only view images specifically to that resolution. We can also sort our images via file name, extension, file size, date, and so forth. We can search for images. Using the display option, we can view further information regarding the image, such as the date, file size, as well as the resolution. Once we have selected the logo or image we want to use within our project, we can make sure it is ticked and then select the Add Selected. And as we see, it is now used within our project. The image management interface is used very similar within our applications during the project creation. Within this interface, we can also change the project details. We can change the project name. We can include a project description, which is also included within some of the applications. And we can include some additional project information. To continue, we click Next. We have then the languages. Here we can add multiple languages to our project. So we have a complete language management system within Scriptcase, which we can use as we previously discussed, and allowing us to add and manage multiple languages within our project. So I will go ahead and add 3 different languages here. I will leave English as my default, as I'm English, and we also have the option here to delete. So let's get rid of Danish. We don't want Danish no more. So, and then we can go next. On our project theme selection, we select which template or theme we want to use within all of our applications. We can add multiple, or we can just keep a singular. By default, we have the SC9_Rhino selected and set as default. I will scroll down slightly and use one of these newer versions and select the SC9 Midnight and set that as the default for this project, and remove the SC9 Rhino. I will then also go ahead and click the Next button. As we discussed within the first video, Scriptcase supports many databases. For this demonstration, we will be using MySQL. In many cases, SQLite would be a nice alternative as it is a flat file database. Do remember we can also connect to ODBC, which is then the Windows Server LDAP. So let's go ahead and select MySQL. And we will then have the option to name our connection, which I will leave as default. We can specify our server or host, which should be if on a local host 127.0.0.1. We can also specify the connection driver we want to use for MySQL, as well as a specific port if we want to change it. We do require our username and password to list the database, and if it is incorrect, then we will of course receive a connection error, as we do right now. And once we add the correct username and password, it will list our databases. So here I will be selecting let me find it, samples demo, and then again we can test our connection, and Scriptcase will let us know that the connection is just fine. We also have here some security options. If we want to use SSL, we can select this and provide our key and so forth. We then also are able to add filters, as well as custom advanced encoding and separators and so forth. We can also enable a persistent connection if we so wish. So going back to connection, let's test our connection again, make sure it's all good, and we can then go ahead and select create. Okay, so well done. You have now created your very first project within Scriptcase. And as you can see here, we have the option to create our very first application. But before we do so, let's have a look at the useful links we have at the bottom here. We have the option to view the samples, videos, forum, support, documentation, as well as our online courses. Selecting one of these links will open the respective page on Scriptcase. So from there, you will be able to access your specific information which you require, whether that be help or support, or the forum, of course. Okay, so let's go ahead and create our first application. And with that, then we receive the new application tab, and we can check out what applications we are able to create within the Scriptcase development environment. So the first application up is the grid application. This allows us to create lists from database tables. We are able to view summaries, details, charts, and export this data, and so forth. This will be the first application we'll be checking out later on. So next up we have then chart, which is a chart dedicated application, specifically if you want to create more high-end graphical charts, which you would not be able to create within the grid application. Next up is the form. As the name suggests, is for creating inserts, edit forms for our data. So we will be creating one of these as we continue. Next up is a control application. Control is very similar to a form application, but it's more or less a mixture of form and blank, allowing us to actually add our own fields and create custom forms. So this is a more advanced form builder than the first one. So next up, we then also have a dedicated search application where we can create more advanced search filters. We then also have the menu application where we can create a horizontal or vertical menu to display a list of our applications. These also include buttons and so forth. Next up, we have the tree menu, which is an alternative to the standard menu. And of course, with this, as the name suggests, it has a hierarchy view. Next up, we have the tabs application where we can create a dedicated tab app and add our grids or forms within the tabs. Next up is a dedicated PDF report application. Now, most applications do already provide export features, but they are not as advanced as the PDF report. The same goes for the chart. So when we want to create dedicated PDF reports, which would be more advanced than what we can receive from a grid, such as receipts and so on, then we would want to use the PDF report application. Next up, we have the dashboard where we can create specific dashboards for our users, and we can display the information we want. Next up, we then have the blank application. The blank application is, as its name suggests, a blank application. This actually is one of the more advanced applications of all of them, as we literally hand code this one. It does include many options and features. We will check this out later on. Next up, we will then also have the calendar application, which creates a dedicated calendar app. The calendar application is an advanced application. It also integrates with Google. During the next part, we will continue and create our very first applications. Thank you very much for watching. See you again soon.